Hello, RAFV. You're listening to the Who's Who with Stu podcast, and I'm Chris Studebaker, CEO of the Realtor Association of the Fox Valley. On this podcast, we'll be chatting with important stakeholders in the Fox Valley community, finding out the scoop and sharing it with you. Let's start with Ron and John Stats and Trends, starring Ron Donovan, chairperson of the Tech Committee, stats nerd, and realtor at Keller Williams Infinity, and John Broadbooks, chief communications officer at MRED, where we explore and discuss current housing market stats and what's going on in our local markets.
Hey, Realtor Association of the Fox Valley. I am Ron Donovan. I'm the chairperson for the Technology and Communications Committee. Welcome to the Ron and John, or the John and Ron show. We're still fighting for that. We'll see who wins. Our agents are actually at lunch right now, trying to decide who's going to get top billing. So and does loser pick up the check, I'm guessing?
Well, that would assume that you're the loser.
Good answer.
But you're not, so I have a feeling that I'm going to end up paying for this.
Good answer. Good answer, John. Well, welcome. This is John Broadbooks from MRED. He is the Chief Communications Officer. John, we're here to talk about market stats, the housing market.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking the time to do this. We are now headed into year 3 of a pandemic. Let's start there. What trends are you seeing in the housing market?
You know, it's really interesting. I've had a number of conversations. You think about January in 2020 was right before we started getting awareness that, hey, there's something headed our way that could have a profound impact on, well, just about everything, not the least of which was sales of toilet paper. And, you know, you can think about this. We thought that the housing market was going to come to a screeching halt. And, you know, when you look at, you know, March and into, you know, the early part of April, yeah, it slowed down. It didn't stop, but it slowed down significantly. And I think everybody was kind of going, oh, my goodness, what does this mean? Well, you know, obviously we're sitting here today. We've had about 2.5 years, almost 3 years of extremely robust markets. And in fact, you know, I think in just about every market that MRED looks at, and certainly the ones in the Fox Valley area, you're seeing this story of increased median prices, low days on market. Inventories are just so depleted that it's making very difficult for people who want to get a house to be able to get a house. And, you know, we haven't seen any real pullback on that. In fact, and Ron, this would be something because you're out there selling every day. I'm not a practitioner, but, you know, it used to be kind of quiet in January and February. I'm not seeing that in the data that we review. What are you seeing?
No, you're absolutely right. It's not quiet. As soon as a home comes on the market, as you mentioned, low inventory, less than a month in a lot of the Fox Valley markets, which is, I don't know anyone that I've spoken to. I've been doing this for 16.5 years. There's folks that have been doing this longer in my office, and they all say they've never seen anything like this. So yeah, incredibly low inventory. As soon as something comes on the market, there's a line literally at open houses to get in. I've never seen anything like it. And so the next question is, you know, what's that doing to prices? What are you seeing out there?
I mean, at its very basis, you know, real estate is supply and demand. If you have diminished supply and demand is high, and we're seeing that, you're going to end up with a case where prices are going to continue to increase. You know, you mentioned like people lined up down the block, and you're seeing that in some of the data. I mean, we track, you know, showings per listing. And, you know, some of the communities where we're looking at this, oh my goodness, Algonquin, for example, in January, this is the median. So, you know, there were some properties where it was higher, right? 26.4 showings per listing, you know. Schaumburg was 21.5. I mean,
is that per week? Is that per week?
That's in the month. That's for the, you know,
okay,
per listing, you know, over the course of that month. That's incredible traffic. And even when you look at it in terms of you know, the listing, the contract days, I mean, look at it on a county level. So January median listing to contract days, let's take, we'll take Kane County, for example, 9 days.
Wow.
Kendall County was 8 days. McHenry County was 11 days, and DeKalb was 12. I mean, almost as fast as you're putting some properties on the market, they're going off the market, and you're seeing that as it comes up in the median prices. And another measure that you look at is, if you're a seller, are you getting what you're listing your house for? And, if you look at it historically, you might get, if you went back 3 years, you might get 95%, 96%, just depending on the market. We have in Kane and Kendall County, the median percent of original price, they're getting 100%. That's the median, 100%. I mean, that's stunning. And I believe there's some communities where it's even over 100% if you drill down into some of the specific cities. So, just a real robust market. I don't even know. Robust may be the wrong word. I mean, robust may be underselling this market.
Right. So those are our talking points as agents, as we're trying to advise our sellers, advise our buyers. We really need to let them know, hey, market times from the time a seller puts a home on the market till it's sold is, from the 4 counties you talked about, 12 days is the biggest number. That's something that both your sellers and your buyers need to be educated on. And then that median accepted price at 100%. So that gives you your talking point with your buyer when they think that they want to lowball a seller. Probably not the best strategy in this market.
Yeah, I mean, right now, and I can say this is somebody who just bought a house, right? Sold and bought a house. I mean,
wow,
you have to move so aggressively in order to get what you want. And, I work remotely, so I'm downstate, but the same picture is in every single one of MRED's markets. It doesn't matter whether you're downstate, and we have a number of downstate markets, or whether you're in Fox Valley. The same dynamic is there. People desperately want to get a house, and they want to get into the perfect house. There's so little on the market that you have to have sort of this internal conversation with yourself. What is it specifically I'm willing to accept to get in? It may not be the exact perfect house. Maybe it doesn't have the solarium. Maybe it doesn't have the 15-car garage that I know you want, Ron. Maybe you have to settle for a 13-car garage. I don't know. But you're going to have to be able to move very, very aggressively and counsel any of your clients on that.
So what are you seeing then? What does January kind of portend for the rest of the year? Best guess.
Yeah, well, and first of all, if I were really good at prognostication, I would be on a beach with an umbrella drink right now, instead of talking to you. And I'm happy to talk to you, Ron. You're one of my favorite people. But here's what I think. For the short term, I really don't see the pace slacking. January has been very robust. There are 2 things that I think we potentially want to watch. The first one is interest rates. They've been going up several basis points. Now potentially could be right at about 4%. That's still historically not horrible. I mean, you got to remember that in the early 80s, it was 18, almost 19%. And traditionally, I think if you look at a band, 5, 6, 6.5%, that was considered a pretty good, stable market rate. We're still approaching 4%. We're coming off historic lows, right? 2.77%, I think, back in August, perhaps. So that is putting a squeeze on the amount that you can get, right? For what you can put down. The other side of the coin, and this is something which is just suddenly erupted, really, is, you're looking at inflationary pressure. And, inflation was 7.5% in January. Now, the question is this something that's going to immediately, over the next couple of months, work its way out, get back to a more reasonable pace? But, those 2 factors do affect how much people can pay for a house. So short term, I think, things are probably pretty good. Certainly, I'm seeing no sign that demand is diminished. But I think it will be interesting to see what happens in the back half of the year. And I'm not doom and gloom. I think the demand is there so that there are going to be people who are willing to buy a house. They desperately want to get into a house. So I think that's good for the Fox Valley market. But I think it remains to be seen just how robust this market continues to be.
Right. And that's what I'm hearing is the same exact thing that, we're going to see demand decrease somewhat, but we're still so short on inventory that this year is likely to be a seller's market throughout. Is that kind of what?
I think so. And, let's remember, I mean, January and February traditionally have been slower in terms of the number of houses that are on the market right now. But even year over year, you're still seeing a drop of 1/3 to even 1/2 in some markets of inventory that is there. A lot of people bought a house and they may have locked in one of the lowest interest rates you'll ever get, right? How willing are you going to be to trade out on something like that? I mean, you got a great house, you got a great payment, you may not be willing to put your current house down to just an unbelievably insane level for those of you who are really into data. So all the data that I have, you can have, and that's an important thing to know.
And you know what I love about InfoSparks is you can get the numbers, but it puts it in a graph, which speaks so much more loudly often when you're in a presentation kind of a situation. So thanks for that.
Yeah, we want you to share this information. I mean, it's your information after all, right? And we thank you for that.
Awesome. Well, that was out. Thanks so much for your time today. That was a lot of fun. Hopefully everybody got a little nugget out of this. Send in questions to us if there's things that you want John to do some homework on. He's got all the time in the world. I'm sure he'd love to.
All the time in the world for you, Ron. But then it will be the John and Ron show if we do it again.
Okay, fair enough. See you next time.
Thanks, guys. Next up, help me welcome Annalise Firstos of the Illinois Realtors Legal Department. She'll be taking us through one of the main questions she receives on the Illinois Realtors Legal Hotline. Annalise, take it away.
This is Annalise Firstos. I'm the hotline attorney at Illinois Realtors. My contact information is on the Illinois Realtors webpage at illinoisrealtors.org. Please feel free to email me or call me anytime. That is what the hotline is there for, and it is a member service. Today, I'd like to discuss a little bit about a common question coming in on the hotline quite frequently in the last couple of weeks. I am getting a lot of calls from licensees asking me if it is okay to buy your own listing. And I will tell you that historically, from our general counsel down to my era here, our answer is generally no, do not do that. The reason is because there is an inherent conflict present if a licensee is buying their own listing. Everybody probably realizes that the Illinois Real Estate License Act has a dual agency prohibition, and that would apply to a licensee buying a listing from their own seller. And that is because a licensee in those situations could not adequately represent the interests of both parties, themselves and the seller. The License Act also requires that all licensees put the interest of their client ahead of their own personal interests. So again, obviously, buying your own listing makes that almost impossible. Finally, if something were to go wrong in these types of a situation, in the type of situation where a licensee was buying their own listing and then the seller, after the fact, accused them of wrongdoing, the person who is licensed is going to be held to a higher standard by a court of law because they're licensed, they understand the market, they understand the industry. And so they would be at a disadvantage in defending an accusation that they took advantage of an unrepresented seller. So that is something that everybody needs to keep in mind. And that is why when people call me and they ask me, is it okay if I buy my own listing? I say generally the answer is no. So now that I've said very firmly, no, do not buy your own listing. We do have some clues if for some reason a listing broker thinks they absolutely have to buy their own listing and they should adhere to all of the following cautionary guidelines. You should give up the listing, refer the seller to their own attorney, appraiser, and or a new agent. So essentially removing themselves from that representative status with the seller. You should not take a commission in that situation, and you should ask an attorney to draft a release for the seller's signature that the seller would not complain about that transaction at a later date. And finally, check your errors and omissions insurance policies to make sure the transaction would be covered in the event of a complaint from the seller. Brokerage owners and designated managing brokers should probably review this situation with errors and omissions anyway, and consider drafting an office policy that actually prohibits their licensees from buying their own listings and requiring that they actually have any seller who wants to sell and they're interested in buying requires them to enter into a listing agreement with another brokerage or another agent. Thank you so much, Chris. That's my topic for today. and have a good afternoon.
Thanks, Annalise. Great information. Up next, I'm talking with Mayor Laura Vitek, the mayor of St. Charles. Laura spilled the tea on movies, COVID, inclusionary housing, and future projects in the city. Help me welcome Mayor Laura Vitek.
So we're talking today with Mayor Laura Vitek, who was elected mayor of St. Charles in 2021 and was previously alderman from 2017 to 2021. Mayor Vitek is the executive director of Delta Dental of Illinois Foundation. She holds a Master of Business Administration and Master of Management from North Park University, as well as a Bachelor of Science in Marketing from Millikan University. Fantastic. So today we're going to talk about a variety of things within the community, some things that are related to economic development, real estate. As the Realtor Association, we like to talk about some of those things. But I want to talk a little bit today about first and foremost, let's talk about this action movie. Like there's a movie coming to St. Charles. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so we have a movie coming to St. Charles, and it's going to be filmed mostly downtown. We don't know all the particulars of that, and we're not supposed to share everything, but I do know there's some prominent actors and actresses coming. And if you are downtown at the Hotel Baker or on Riverside Avenue through, I think it's March 10th through St. Patrick's Day Parade, you will see plenty of action, but mostly late at night. Yes.
So what character are you playing in the movie?
Oh, I know. I think I have an
Cameo
opportunity
of sorts?
cameo, but no.
Very nice. So are they utilizing the whole downtown, do you know, or this? I heard the police station, the Baker Hotel.
I
and
think
just
some
of the
areas on
streetscapes?
Riverside Drive, in between like Riverside Pub and a few other locations. But I know that there are going to be some road closures, which not everyone's super happy about, but late at night.
But late at night.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So you've been mayor for not very long.
8 months.
8 months. What's your favorite part about being mayor?
This or talking to people. I love getting to know people and just talking with local businesses, residents. So I think that's my favorite part.
Is it any different than when you were alderman?
Yes, it's a lot more work. It's basically a volunteer job. I think we figured out my hourly rate, and it's $13 an hour. So, or it could be 7 cents. Any way
Right.
you look at it. But it's been a really good opportunity, and it's a lot more fulfilling than being an alderman.
I got you.
my
So
opinion.
when you think about your time in public office, what has been your greatest achievement or the thing that you're most proud of?
I'm most proud of what we're doing down on First Street. The First Street initiative and the First Street project. For me, our downtown, although the whole entire city is very important, the downtown is really what makes St. Charles unique. And we have a river that runs through our town, and we really want to make that the gem so that other development and people want to live in St. Charles. And so far, we've made a lot of progress in raising funds for that, and we're just about ready to get started. We've broken ground, but we're about ready to finish the project, hopefully, and I think that is going to be, probably by the time my term is over, one of the things that I'm definitely most proud of.
What's been the biggest challenge in your public life?
Challenge, making everyone happy, making all residents happy and businesses happy, which is impossible.
Right.
And definitely COVID hasn't helped the case. So really understanding how it has impacted residents and businesses, and still being able to move our city forward.
So let's talk about that. So
Yeah.
COVID impacted everybody. It's still there. 15 days to spread on day whatever. I can't do the math. But the as far as you were an alderman when it happened, so you saw kind of the evolution of how the city responded and the impact of the city. You want to kind of tell us the story of COVID through the city, through the eyes of the city government of St. Charles?
I mean, I think for us it's been pretty tricky because we're in the state we're in. So we're in Illinois, and we're in a community where, not to get political, but we have a lot of people of different political parties, and you want to make sure that we can still operate and businesses can make money and people are still feeling healthy and safe. And I think that's been a tough line to ride. So I think we're hoping that we can, get through the next couple of, I'd like to say, months, and hopes that things change. But I think, in my opinion, St. Charles has done a great job. We haven't rode the, traditional line of following things, but we've, I think, done a good job with our public health and safety. So
Sure. What is went from a revenue standpoint, expenditure standpoint? How did the city council handle that in the beginning? Like, I'm sure you anticipated that there were some be some revenue loss, and as far as how did you guys handle that component?
Yeah, I think we've been fortunate being in the community we're in with the tax base we have from residential and from commercial businesses, that we've been okay. And we've gotten some federal dollars coming in, and that will help some of the loss. But we also know that there's going to be things we're going to have to do. And we've done a good job cutting some things that haven't completely impacted the services that our residents get and that our businesses get as well. So I think right now we're in a good place where there isn't any noticeable changes to the services people have gotten, but small changes right now, and we'll see what the future holds. But right now we're in a good place.
Very nice. We're talking today with Mayor Laura Vitek of St. Charles, Illinois. I can tell you that as a resident, I was super proud of how you guys all handled the downtown restaurant area from the beginning, and even through the evolution of the pandemic as it related to the businesses. I think it was great. You guys seem to be a true partner with the businesses downtown, and as a resident, we were able to still enjoy and go down and participate, and I thought that was great.
Thank you. Yes.
Well done. Kudos to you and Mayor Ray. We have to give a
Yes.
shout out to him for that as well. Let's talk about. I recently participated in the CMAP Kane County portion of the Business Leader Roundtables as part of CMAP's Regional Economic Development Collaboration, and workforce development was a huge part of that conversation. But the other part of that conversation was really trying to identify the differences between regional economic development and local economic development. Can you talk a little bit about how St. Charles, the city, is, what they're focused on in their economic development? What the city is, can you tell us a little bit about what the city is focused on in their economic development projects?
Sure. So I think we are probably in the future going to be a leader in our economic development portfolio. We're fortunate to have been able to redevelop Pheasant Run, which has transitioned that a resort or hotel motel tax base that really, because of COVID, wasn't producing much for the city, to now what's going to be an auto dealership of some sort. So there will probably be several auto dealerships there, as well as an industrial park. And bringing an industrial park to our community, obviously you mentioned workforce development, opens up jobs, but it also opens up opportunities for other businesses to want to come here. So we've been hearing and receiving calls, and it's been more of a direct approach to us, to where hotels have been reaching out to us. We know that many of the businesses are filled on 64 in the corridor there around Charleston Mall. We've been hearing action at Charleston Mall, and we continue to. So I think in terms of that, we've also hired an economic development director that will be starting on February 7th. So Heather McGuire, who's our city administrator, and my approach has been to be a very direct and proactive one. So I think what you'll see in the future from us is that we're seeking out businesses and developers that we want to come to St. Charles, instead of necessarily waiting for them to come to us. And how that relates to the regional direction, I think that we have to work hand in hand with Kane County and our partners. There are things that we will be asking them to change, such as maybe some entry points on Randall Road that we're already working on. But as we change and they change, I think that it's going to just definitely have to be a collaborative effort.
Fantastic. We're talking today with Mayor Laura Vitek, St. Charles, Illinois. We wanted to talk to you a little bit about the inclusionary housing program that you guys have in St. Charles. I think you're one out of 5 or 6.
7 now.
Seven
Yes.
now that have a mandatory program. Can you tell us a little bit about your program and kind of how it's been progressing? If you had to give it a grade, where's it at and how's it working?
St. Charles is known to be a leader, and I know that there are many other communities that are starting to look at an inclusionary housing ordinance. I think for us, it's keeping opportunities for all families to live in our community. And I think we're doing a really good job at that. Now, granted, developers can opt out. They do have to waive it and pay a fee to us, but we are still having conversations. We have a housing commission that we rely on to give us demographic information to make sure we stay above the 10% threshold when we're in the 20% range. So I'm proud of that. And I think you'll see in St. Charles, we'll continue to be doing that, offering opportunities for many different families to live in our community.
Fantastic. We're talking today with Mayor Laura Vitek from the city of St. Charles. When we talk about economic development and as it relates to housing, what do you know? What the percentage of St. Charles, like what's the potential for housing in St. Charles, housing development?
Well, so in the context of, for example, some of the plans we've seen with Charleston Mall, where they've wanted to put over 500 rental units. We've done a market study, and specifically in St. Charles, and we know that the market, and you're an expert at this, so we know that the market calls for, we do need more rental units. We don't nearly have enough. And I've lived in the rental community here in St. Charles, and I know that when I was searching for a rental, the opportunities were very minimal. So I think that that's something we're going to continue to see in St. Charles. Not only that, but other peripheral locations that have residential opportunities to be developed that will be annexed into St. Charles as well. So I think in the future, we're going to see more rental units coming, and I know that's a need. But in St. Charles, there still are opportunities for single family homes, and I think you'll see some of those subdivisions coming as well. So we certainly haven't tapped out of the housing market, and I know that there's a need for housing, so I think the future holds more opportunity.
Fantastic. Do you have any scoops? Like, we're doing a podcast here. Like, is there a
Yes.
scoop that you can tell our viewers that is it something cool that's happening or coming? I mean, I threw the movie out there, but that
Yes.
was in the paper. So
Gosh, a scoop. Oh, that's tricky. Put me in a corner here. No, I think that a couple things. Mostly, we'll still see more automotive dealerships coming that you haven't necessarily heard about coming. There are several that are on the horizon, which is a great tax base for our community. I know not necessarily something everyone likes, but it does help everyone's taxes, and it helps our community to be able to provide the services we do. I think that, and although I should knock on wood for this one, I do believe that there will be some action in the next 2 years for certain with Charleston Mall. So, I know
That's
there's
a
a
scoop.
concept out there, but I
Right.
do believe that things are happening and things will happen in our community there. So that would be something great to see, action there, and I think that's a good sign for our residents when something does. And I think that you might see the river look a little different with the redevelopment project of the old police station. So we've gotten some proposals in, and we're looking to see what those all entail, but it'll look a lot different. So I think there's progress happening, and certainly things for our residents to look forward to.
fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time. We
You're
look forward to working with you and your staff for the years to come. So
Absolutely, and thank you for everything your organization does.
Fantastic. Mayor Vitek.
Thank you.
Thank you again, RAFV, for tuning in to our podcast, Who's Who with Stu. If you have a topic you'd like us to discuss, please email me at chris@rafv.realtor. That's chris@rafv.realtor. Until next time, this is Chris Studebaker signing off.